You ready to go, babe? Come on. Maya was able to borrow a dump trailer for the evening, so he's getting some more super soil. Back in business. We can finish amending the beds now. The sun caught that spider web and looked really cool. I've been traveling for the better part of the last 2 weeks. Just been crazy busy traveling, guests, shindig. But now I'm back. Caught up on all the work I had to get caught up on. Today has been a day in the garden. Hey, guess what time it is? It's gardening time. We gotta plant this garden, dude.
Hey, I had fun near a wasp, but it didn't sting me. It was like smelling me.
A wasp was smelling you. So here's a little before shot from before we start working. Check this out. Got some knee-high weeds in the garden rows. Some pretty intense weeds in the garden beds. That side of the garden looks a lot better than this side. So this happened today. Josh was over here earlier and he and Sweet Maya framed out the roof of the pavilion. Maya is tenacious when it comes to the finishing point of a project. So I suspect this pavilion will be done pretty soon. It really bothers him to get it to this point, like almost done, and leave it. Like, he typically will rush things along at that point. So at this point they just have to finish framing the roof a little bit. So he's on the lookout for a weather vane, a rooster weather vane, and they're building like a box on top to have that, and they can't roof it until they find that. So if I know him, he'll be scouring the internet for that tonight. And I will be looking for, oh, thank you so much. Can I have a kiss to go with it?
Yeah.
Thank you. And I will be looking out for a good, like, vintagey furniture set. I am absolutely, like, I won't buy new stuff like that. I hate spending money on things, for one. Like, I'm just really cheap when it comes to stuff like that. And I love the character of older stuff. So I'm gonna start going around and seeing what I can find. I would really love something kind of like vintage and cool, and I would like to avoid purchasing something brand new, if at all possible. Hey, bear. This is lovely craftsmanship, though, don't you think? Those brothers know what they're doing. Look at my lettuce looking pretty. That's the flashy butter oak, and this is the flashy butter gem. So different leaf, oak leaf, and then more the rounded leaf. And that's a weed, which there are currently quite a lot of in my garden. That's what I've been doing today, is I've been going through and weeding and getting ready to put plants in, because I have all of my tomatoes and stuff that I was planning on getting in this week, but the beds had gotten really weedy. A video that has been requested a lot, and I've been saying I'm gonna do it for like a year, is my favorite gardening tools. The reason why I haven't done it up until this point is because I don't ever want to give the idea that you need stuff to have a good garden, because you don't. If you have the determination to grow food, you can do it. You can do it. However, that said, good tools do make a job easier, and I have some things that I really love to use in my garden, and I think that it would be a good resource for, you know, buying gifts for gardeners, or if you are like me and you get a little bit of spending money and the person says spend it on yourself and you don't know how to do that, you know, like having a list like this, garden tools, I think it would be a good resource. So I am going to put it together. I thought about it today because this was something I had put on my wish list. I thought it was kind of cool, and somebody purchased it for us off Amazon, and it is like, it's called a hori tool, H-O-R-I, and I guess it's like a Japanese tool. I don't know. I'd never used it before. I followed this company on Instagram. I don't know them, but I got this sucker in, and this bad boy is cool. This is really cool. So I am so thankful to have received this, and it made me think I should show people this stuff. Just as a home gardener, this $20 tool made weeding these garden beds so much easier today. We'll come over here. This is mostly alyssum that is coming up from last year that reseeded. But like, here is a well, it's too dead to be a good example. Okay, let's look at this garden bed. So basically, this thing is like a shovel, sort of like a little spade, but it's got a knife side and like a saw side. And seriously, it has made pulling these weeds up like really easy because it just slides down underneath them and you can pull them right out. And if you have any issues with any thick roots, you just cut through them. So I've been enjoying this today. This is my first day to really use it, and it's one that I can tell I'm really going to like having. If I can be really honest with you guys, my garden is slightly overwhelming to me today. It's kind of hard for me to admit that because I want to, you know, like present this beautiful garden and it'll be really awesome. And it probably has a lot to do with the fact that I am very tired. Like, I've been going a lot and I'm still getting sort of caught up, and it's gonna take a couple of days for things to feel normal again. But I keep coming down here, and a lot of this, like the weeds and the walkways and a lot of it just feels like a lot. And that's how it is sometimes. I remember the first year that I made a garden, it was an 8x10 plot that I did in the ground. I had no tools whatsoever. I did all of it by hand, dug it all up with like a hand cultivator. And it was miserable. The amount of work that I put into it was just insane. And then it rained for like 16 straight days after I transplanted my plants, so like most of them died. And I just remember being so discouraged that I gave up and I didn't garden for 2 years. Like, that was my foray into gardening. But as far as really growing a significant amount of food, it was something I had to ease back into because I experienced so much discouragement. And honestly, this last couple of days, being one, exhausted, and two, this is just a lot of work. This is a lot of work. And coming down here, having so many decisions to make, what to put where, I've literally just come down and looked at it and been like, oh man, it's so much, and I love it. I love it so much. Sometimes it's overwhelming. That's okay. You don't have to be like super gardener to be a good gardener, and you can get overwhelmed by it sometimes. You can want to quit sometimes. Just don't quit, just keep going. I keep coming down, I get overwhelmed, I go back inside, I muster up the gumption to come back, and I come back down, and I do a little bit more, and a little bit more. And after today, I actually got quite a lot done. I got a lot of weeding done, and I feel like, okay, I can do this. We're gonna get the garden in. And once it's in, it'll be awesome. I'm pretty sure that this is spinach, that this is a spinach that I planted last year. And there's chard here too that I planted last year, and this is all stuff that overwintered and has started growing again. Like, that's chard for sure. I'm trying to go through here and decide what all in these beds needs to stay. Like this monster thyme plant, I'm gonna leave that, and we're just kind of gonna amend around it and plant around it. Look at this. It's like a jungle. Oh, there's a tool I left. There's some more chard popping up that was left over from last year. Oh, look here. The lemon balm and the peppermint is going nuts. Told y'all it would. I mean, just even in a couple weeks, it'll be twice the size. And look at the woods. Aren't they gorgeous? So beautiful. So green. Now, we've run into a little bit of a dilemma as far as design goes, because we decided to put the pavilion here knowing that the roof was going to cast shade. We decided to go ahead and pitch the roof a little higher, even though it's going to cast more shade, because Maya was like, he's so extra. He really is. And so when he does something, he likes the wow factor, and so he wanted it to be like this beautiful roof. And what we decided to do was go ahead and do it. Even though the sun comes up over here, and so that's gonna cast morning shade on this part of the garden, but then all these trees cast evening shade and like late afternoon shade. And basically we decided to go try it, and if the pavilion is causing an issue and stunting the growth in this area, we'll take down some of these trees, which I don't really want to do because I love the backdrop of these trees to this space. However, we might be in need of a little extra pasture space soon. Maybe. We'll see. if our new animals need that. Oh look, my lemon squash is coming up here. Put it in the corner of this bed. This sprout is a, it's called a Benny Kodima watermelon, which is this little bitty personal size watermelon, like 2 pounds. And so I'm growing 2 on these trellises. Been asked a lot lately by those of you who have built arch trellises like ours, how much do you plant on each trellis? And so I'm just gonna show you really quick what I do. We have rich soil. I don't know if this would be an issue if you had poorer soil, but this is what I do. It's what I've done now for 3 years, so I mean, it's working. Basically, you've got the trellis and you've got 2 sides here and here. We do plant on the inside of the trellis. That doesn't matter so much as far as sunlight goes, because essentially if you plant right up next to it, the plant can go up, the foliage will go out. It doesn't make a difference on the amount of sun it gets. That just makes the roots a little more accessible, which I prefer for fertilizing or when I'm pulling the plant out. I just like to have it on the inside. On a trellis like this, if I'm planting melons, I essentially just put 1 plant here and 1 plant there, on both sides, 1 here and 1 there. And that goes for melons and cucumbers. I have grown tomatoes on these. I've never had them go all the way up to the top, but they've gotten pretty close. And I just do 2 on each end of the trellis, just the same. Basically anything like that. Oh look, Natalie's sunflowers that she planted whenever she was here are coming up. Look at that, he hasn't quite gotten undressed yet. My noodle beans over here are just starting to come up, and so I can actually show you guys what I do. Daniel planted these when he was here. What I just do is put 1 bean at the bottom of every one of these metal things. Looks like that one has 2. That he probably just dropped an extra seed, which is fine. I'll just leave that. Doing this spacing has worked great for beans. Now, I don't love growing shelled beans on the trellis either. I don't love growing shelled beans at all. Probably just in my gardening space and growing vertically the way that I do, I haven't been able to get the volume that I really needed to make it feel worth it to me. So I'm not doing shelled beans on here. Green beans, yes. Noodle beans, I love noodle beans on the trellis. They're beautiful. They're very prolific. I really like those, but I'm not gonna do like dry shelling beans here. That's another thing I want to do in the back, where I can do just a lot more volume. With a family as large as mine, this much space and this many bean plants is just not really worth it.
No. What do you want to do? You want to go put it in the wheelbarrow?
What are you doing?
We're going to go feed animals. And the little kid's job today was picking up all the little scraps and put it in the new wheelbarrow.
Oh, cool. I like your pavilion.
I like you. In my pavilion. Bear, I'm not trying to get bear snuggles.
He's like, love me, daddy. Bizzle, you want to say hi to YouTube? Say hi to our friends? No?
Let's feed the animal. I did feed the animals. Look, I fed a baby goat. Right here. Benjamin, the goat kid. Meh, eating all that cabbage leaf.
What are you eating, Benny?
What you eating?
Cabbage.
You just been eating on that all day.
We love it.
We love it.
This is chamomile coming up right here. I've got some squash that's already coming along pretty good. Down the middle here are beets. That's just weeds. That's 1,000-head kale. These are some pepper plants. This is holy basil, which I'm hoping will kind of like fill out all in this end. There's the 2 lone tomatoes that Daniel planted. I will finish out both of these rows this week. And the kids and I did put in some pepper plants today right here. Look here, I noticed this earlier. Kajari melons. They have arrived. Is it really exciting for anybody else watching these things just pop up in their infantile stages, knowing that we're gonna be touring through this garden and watching them grow the entire season? I don't know. It just seems cool when things like the Kajari melons come up. I don't know, maybe it feels just like a little bit of a bigger deal this year than it has in years past because I'm sharing it with y'all. I've been trying to remember to put my tools in here so I don't ruin them. Some of my transplants are really starting to struggle. partially because of, I think, being crowded, partially they get big and they start really kind of wanting for nutrition. So I've been using some liquid fertilizer. It's definitely time for a lot of these to get in the ground. And wouldn't you know, I struggled so hard with these peppers getting started, but look at them now. They look good and healthy. I planted out some of these today. Look, these are Alaska Red Shade Nasturtiums, which have variegated leaves, and the variegation is really starting to show on here. Aren't those beautiful? So I've pretty much got this bed to where it's going to be for now. I may fill some holes later, but it's seeded, planted, and I'm just waiting for everything to fill out. This is the Comfrey plant that I brought back from the Elliott homestead, and it's looking like it's had a really rough couple of days. It did travel 2,200 miles in an airplane, and I stuck it in my suitcase, but then I checked it instead of carrying it on. And usually if I carry plants, I try to carry them on, but I just wasn't thinking about it. And of course, it gets really cold. Comfrey can handle the cold, but in the midst of being shocked and all of that stuff, he's just objecting to life right now, but he'll perk up. Here behind the greenhouse, I don't think I've showed you guys this. So behind Bear here, this is like an old big commercial chicken feeder. And I've never had enough chickens to warrant using that as a chicken feeder. Actually, a lady gave it to me. I was at a thrift store once talking to her, and we got to talking about chickens and gardening, and she'd had that in the store for a long time, and she was like, I thought it would make a great planter. And she gave it to me, which was super sweet. So I've got it up against this fence. I'm gonna fill it with soil, and I'm gonna plant something in that to climb up the fence right here behind the greenhouse. I've also got to get something planted in the tires, because that is what they're for. That's probably the #1 question we get asked on our channel, is what are the white tires for? And basically we just had tires piled up because we live in the sticks, and with all of Maya's brothers and our friends, we've had a lot of tires changed out at our house, and they were just piled up. We don't have roadside trash pickup out here in the boonies, and we just ended up with all these tires. So we slapped some paint on them and hung them on the fence post and planted flowers in them. However, obviously the flowers are not always super obvious when they're smaller or when they're first planted, and so people have had all kinds of theories about what the tires are for. Just for flowers. I'm gonna try to get some planted in it early this year so that by the time the garden tours come around, it's obvious what we're using them for. Bear, you wanna go for a walk? We're gonna go down to the horses. So all along the roadside here, where Bear is showing us all of this is all wild blackberries. Just throughout here, just wild blackberries all over. And actually out here where we live, most of the roadsides are just covered in wild blackberries. And it's kind of a big deal to me to pick wild blackberries, because that was like my lifeline to real food. When I desperately wanted a farm but couldn't afford one, I would go pick wild blackberries. And I actually have permission from my neighbors to kind of forage on their roadsides. And it's something that it's just kind of special to me. I still do it, even though I could probably grow plenty of blackberries, and we may still plant some. I think I'll always still pick wild blackberries. It's just a reminder to me of how much I get to have now. And it makes good jam too. Hey silly boy, don't get too far off. Come on, come on, don't get too far off. You gonna go get him? Come on, Benny. Sure. Maya's gotta go get the horses. Tell them it's dinner time. Speaking of wild blackberries, they're all in this pasture where the horses are too. I don't know where the horses are, but Bear sure is enjoying the run. Are you a happy farm dog? I'm honestly feeling a little bit nervous right now. I don't have my phone on me, and Maya's been down there for a few minutes. I think maybe we should walk down there. Go see what's going on. I still hear the four-wheelers, so assuming that means nothing's wrong. I mean, this is a 90-acre pasture, but he hasn't come back. I'm trying to decide if it would be better for me to try to walk this pasture and find him. I'll go back to the house and get my phone. The wind is blowing really hard, and there are all these trees around. I'm so it's hard for me to tell what I'm hearing. I'm messing up my sense of direction. Come on, Benny, keep up. There he is. Those stinkers. Bear, leave it. Bear, come on. They will stomp you. Little stinker. Look at those stinkers. I get my cardio in today running around this field thinking they got themselves hurt. I was scared.
Were you?
Yeah, I didn't know where you went.
Oh,
yeah.
They were on the very far back corner.
Ah, little heifers.
Yeah, man, it was fun. I came up this hill. I wish I had a camera. Because I was coming up the hill, and then I was flooring it. And Cyrus was right, I could have touched him. He's full going.
Hey, silly. Hey.
I love horses.
Hey, silly.
Good boy.
Their winter coat is gone. Mav, did you work up a sweat running up here? Look at him. He's got sweat all down his side. What is it about the smell of a sweaty horse? If you know, you know. If you haven't spent much time around horses, you don't know how glorious that is. That's one of those smells that can never be bottled. So good. See you, dudes. Say bye, guys. Say bye, guys.
Bye, horses.
Did you enjoy that run, dude? Did you enjoy that run? Being in Washington was beautiful. Man, I've never been up to the Pacific Northwest before, and it was just absolutely stunning. But there's nothing like coming home. It's just like everything here is so familiar. The plants and the sounds and the critters, the temperature. Definitely love coming home. Thank you guys for hanging out with me this evening. It's gonna be a good spring. God bless you. Until next time.